Welcome back to Healing and Growth Hub. If you've ever felt lost in your healing journey, unsure how to love yourself, especially after trauma, you are not alone. Today we're talking about how to start loving yourself even when you don't know how. We'll explore self-worth and childhood experiences that shape the way we love ourselves with practices from professionals. Healing is possible, and by the end of this episode, you'll have tangible tools to start rewriting the way you see yourself. So let's dive in. Why trauma makes self-love so hard. Trauma isn't just what happens to you. It's what happens inside of you because of it. This is one of the most important shifts in understanding trauma. Many of us think trauma is just about big obvious events like abuse, violence, or major loss. And while those are absolutely forms of trauma, there's something deeper happening beneath the surface. Trauma isn't just the event itself. It's the way the event changes your belief, emotions, and nervous system. So let me give you an example. Two people could experience the same painful situation. Let's say being abandoned by a parent. One person might process it, receive support, and still believe they're worthy of love. Another person, especially a child who did not get the emotional support they needed, might grow up believing people always leave. I'm not lovable. I have to prove my worth. The difference, the way their nervous system and subconscious mind responded to the trauma. So what happens inside of us after trauma? The nervous system stays in survival mode. When something painful happens, especially in childhood, our brain's number one job is to protect us. So if you experienced neglect, you may have learned to shrink yourself to avoid rejection. Emotional abuse, you may have learned to always be perfect to avoid criticism. Betrayal, you may struggle with trust because your brain's wired itself to expect harm. This is why certain situations today may trigger intense emotions, even if you don't fully understand why. Your body still holds on to the memory of that pain. Trauma changes the stories we tell ourselves. So when we don't process trauma, our mind starts to form beliefs based on what we went through. If I was ignored, I must not be important. If I was constantly criticized, I must be a failure. If I was rejected, I must not be lovable. But here's what I want you to hear loud and clear. The beliefs are not the truth. They are the wound speaking. When we learn this, we realize we don't have to keep carrying these beliefs forever. So how do we begin to heal? We start by recognizing trauma shapes us, but it does not define us. Our past experience may have made love feel unsafe, but love is still available to you. Your pain may have told you that you are broken, but you are whole beneath the wound. Healing is about learning to gently rewrite the story trauma left behind. Bring it back to self-love. The reason I'm sharing all of this is because when we struggle with self-love, it's rarely about just not liking ourselves. It's often about the layers of unprocessed hurt that taught us to see ourselves in a distorted way. And if trauma can shape the way we see ourselves, that means healing can reshape it too. What's a belief of yours that you know deep down isn't true? Drop it in the comment. Let's rewrite our story together. Self-love isn't just a mindset. It's something deeply connected to our nervous system, emotions, and past experience. If you grew up in an environment where self-love felt conditional, where you had to be a certain way to be accepted, your brain learned to associate self-worth with achievements, approvals, and perfections. Maybe you were told you're too sensitive. Why can't you just be normal? You have to work hard to be worthy. When we internalize these messages, they become our inner voice, a voice that criticizes instead of nurture. But here's the truth. The way you were treated does not define your worth. Your brain may have learned unhealthy patterns, but it can also learn new ones. And that's what we're going to start working on today. So, how to rewire the brain for self-love? The brain is neuroplastic. It can change. Just like we learn to walk or ride a bike, we can retrain our mind to practice self-love. So what does that mean? Our brain are not set in stone. Science tells us about a powerful ability called neuroplasticity, which basically means that our brain is constantly rewiring itself based on what we repeatedly think, feel, and experience. This is huge when it comes to self-love and healing from trauma. Why? Because if our brain has been conditioned to believe we're not worthy or we don't deserve love, it doesn't mean that belief is permanent. It means that's just a pattern, and patterns can be rewritten. So think about it like this. Do you remember learning to ride a bike? At first it felt awkward, unnatural, maybe even impossible. You'd wobble, you probably doubted yourself, you probably even fell. But over time, with repetition and practice, your brain built new pathways that started to say, I can do this. This is becoming easier. Now this feels natural to me. Self-love works exactly the same way. If you spend years believing negative thoughts about yourself, of course it won't feel natural at first. But just like any skill, the more you practice new thoughts, new feelings, new behaviors, the more they become a part of us. So how do we retrain the brain for self-love? Awareness. Catch the thought. Notice when your mind falls into old patterns. I'm not good enough. I'm always messing up. I'll never be happy. Pause and remind yourself, this is an old thought, not my truth. Replace it. Create new pathways. Instead of saying I'm not good enough, rewire it. I'm learning to love myself one step at a time. I am worthy, even if I don't feel it yet. At first, it might not feel real, but neither did it when you were trying to ride a bike for the first time, right? Take small, loving actions. The brain rewires itself through experience. So don't just say self-love affirmations. Act on them. Set boundaries. Do one kind thing for yourself today. Celebrate a tiny win, even if it's just, I got out of bed today. Every time you take a step, your brain is learning. I deserve love. I am safe. to take up space. I am enough. Your brain is always changing. You are not stuck. You are not broken. And self-love is not out of reach. Healing happens through small, consistent shifts. And over time, those shifts turns into new ways of thinking, feeling, and existing. When you spend years believing you are not enough, self-love doesn't just magically appear. It's something you have to build one small step at a time. Here are 3 powerful practices that will help you start to shift your mindset. Number 1, change the way you talk to yourself. The way you speak to yourself shapes your self-image and how you show up in the world. So what does that mean? The voice in your head, it's shaping everything. How you see yourself, how you interact with others, and even the opportunities that you believe you're worthy of. If your inner dialogue is full of self-criticism, doubt, and shame, that becomes your reality. But if you learn to shift the way you speak to yourself, you can completely change how you move through life. Think about it like this. Imagine you're talking to a child who is learning something new. Would you say to them, "You always mess up. You'll never get it right. Why even try? You're just not good enough"? Of course not, because that would crush their confidence, right? So why do we talk to ourselves this way? If you wouldn't say it to a child, a friend, or someone you love, why say it to you? The truth is, your brain listens to everything you tell it, and over time, those words become beliefs. So how does this affect your self-image? If you're constantly telling yourself you're not enough, you'll start believing that you aren't worthy of good things. If you say, "I always fail," you'll subconsciously avoid taking risks or trying something new. If you call yourself stupid, ugly, or a failure, those words will shape the way you carry yourself in the world. The self-talk becomes your identity. But here's the good news. You can rewrite that script. How do you change your inner dialogue? Catch the negative thought. Catch that negative self-talk. Start paying attention to how you speak to yourself throughout the day. Notice when you say things like, "I'm so stupid. I'll never be good enough. No one can love me like this." Pause. Acknowledge that this is just an old pattern, not the truth. Then reframe it with some self-compassion. Instead of letting negative thought define you, rewrite them. I made a mistake, but I'm still learning, and that's okay. I'm growing, and growth takes time. I deserve love and kindness, even from myself. At first, this might feel awkward or forced, and that's okay. Healing isn't about perfection. It's about practice. Speak to yourself like someone you love. The next time you catch yourself being harsh, imagine you're talking to a close friend. Would you shame them, or would you encourage them? So try this exercise. Look in the mirror and say, "I love you. I'm proud of you. I am not giving up on you." Do this every day, even if it feels strange at first. Over time, your brain will start to believe it. The way we speak to ourselves today is shaping our future. You deserve kindness. You deserve encouragement. You deserve to be spoken to with love, including from yourself. Your healing starts with the words you choose. So let's choose better ones. Most of us have an inner voice that is way harsher than we realize. Imagine speaking to a child the way you speak to yourself. If that thought makes you cringe, it's time for a shift. Next time you catch yourself thinking, I'm so stupid, or I'll never be good enough, pause. Instead of accepting that as truth, ask yourself, would I say that to someone I love? Then replace it with, I am learning, I am growing, and I am worthy as I am. The more we practice this, the more our brain rewires our self-kindness instead of self-criticism. 2, create safety in your body. Trauma makes self-love feel unsafe. Our nervous system learns whether we feel safe or threatened. To heal, we must teach our body that we are safe. If you've ever felt like self-love is impossible, or like you sabotage good things, your nervous system might be stuck in survival mode. When we grow up in stress or uncertainty, our body learns that being on high alert keeps us safe. But self-love requires softness, trust, and self-compassion, things that survival mode does not allow. So place your hand on your heart and say, I see you, I hear you, you are safe with me. Take a deep breath. Inhale for 4. Hold for 4. Exhale for 6. Longer exhale helps calm the nervous system. This practice signals the body, I am safe, I'm allowed to rest, and I'm allowed to heal. 3, rewrite the story you tell yourself. We live by the stories we tell ourselves. If inner narrative says I'm unworthy, we will keep finding proof of it. The key, change the story. Our mind is always looking for evidence to confirm our beliefs. If we believe we're unlovable, we'll focus on every mistake, rejection, or criticism. But what if we start to look for proof of our worth instead? Write down the negative belief you have about yourself. Example, I'm not lovable. Now challenge it by writing down 3 reasons it's not true. Example, I show love to others every day. I care deeply about others. I am trying to heal, and that matters. Rewrite it in a new belief. I am learning to love myself, and I am worthy of love as I am. Healing isn't about forcing yourself to believe something overnight. It's about repeating the truth until it feels real. Daily self-love practice to start now. Small daily actions lead to lasting transformations. Now that we've worked on mindset shift, let's talk about daily self-love habits to make this a lifestyle. Here are 3 simple but powerful daily practices. Morning mirror affirmation. Every morning, look in the mirror and say, I love you, I'm proud of you, and I am not giving up on you. Compassion, self-compassion. When we catch ourselves in self-criticism, pause, close our eyes, take a deep breath, and say, I am learning to love myself. Write a love letter to yourself. Write a letter to yourself, to your younger self. Tell them everything you wish you had heard. The way we heal is by showing up for ourselves in small ways every single day. Self-love is a journey, and if no one has told you today, you are enough exactly as you are. What's one small way you can show yourself love today? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And if this message resonated, hit the subscribe button, because I'll be bringing more healing tools, real talk, and actionable steps to keep you on your journey. Until next time, be kind to yourself, keep growing, and remember, your healing is happening.